Save another tree. So thank you all for joining tonight for what surely will be a memorable and hopefully you've enjoyed the sushi, a delicious event, the sushi and the salads. My name is Ori Dagan, and this is my second event serving as the Bina Committee Chair. I want to thank the entire Bina Committee, along with Daniel Hausman, and a special thank you to Shlomit of IAC Los Angeles for her work in putting this event together. Part of Bina's mission is to join young professional Israeli Americans and American Jews for events that are fun and have substance. Our goal is that events such as this one will foster and encourage mind-opening ideas and thought-provoking discourse. Bina is powered by IAC LEAD. I've personally been a member of LEAD for about 2 years. LEAD is a program designed for ambitious young professionals who want to use their passion for Israel to unite the Israeli and Jewish American communities. In addition to tonight's event, we have 2 additional exciting events this month. On June 18th, and in partnership with Israel Bonds, IAC LEAD invites you to hear Lauren Weinstein as she provides the crowd with tools on how to develop communication skills using the power of framing. And then on June 27th, we're honored to host special guest speaker Izi Azagui, who remains the world's only one-armed Special Forces sharpshooter. If anyone has questions about LEAD or any of these events, please find me or Agat. Agat is somewhere in here, and yeah, she's in the back over there. So if you have any questions about LEAD, find us, we'll help answer any of the questions, and come join us. It's a great group, especially for someone like me, married, 3 young kids, work all day long. You sometimes just need that moment to get away from your day-to-day and do something that's not just for yourself. All right, so back to the point. It's my honor now to introduce our moderator for the evening, Daniel Hausman. Daniel is a screenwriter and creative consultant. 10 years ago, Daniel and a group of 10 other volunteers founded Bina as a way of using culture to foster community growth. Please join me in providing a warm welcome for Daniel.
Thanks, Ori. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. This is going to be fun. You're going to learn and have a good time tonight. As Ori said, we're coming up on our 10th year of doing the Bina Salon, and I feel like I'm very grateful to Ori for continuing, as well as Karen tonight, who really pushed for this topic. Where's Karen? There she is. It really got us a couple of our speakers and really made this thing happen. So thank you, Karen. I hope we do it proud by you as well. Bina means in Hebrew wisdom, understanding, intelligence, in case anybody didn't know. And we conceived it to bring together Jewish young professionals, Israeli Americans, and creatives using content and culture to create community and conversation. And our community in LA needs thought-provoking dialogue and innovative ideas in short format so we can all discuss and learn more and query the speakers directly after. And we need this now more than ever. This is part of a long tradition that goes back to, of course, Socrates and the great dialogues and the Italian Renaissance and the Enlightenment and TED and Mindshare in the modern world. Some of our people were part of TED and Mindshare early on, the first people that were part of Bina, and we wanted it in our community. The search for knowledge and meaning through learning and dialogue and having fun and sushi and good wine. So, I wanted to say one thing too, on a personal note. I just got back from a week-long retreat in the mountains in a kind of a Buddhist style. And on the note of sustainability, you don't talk, you don't speak unless you absolutely need to for a week. And you're in nature, and it is a really great exercise. If it's ever something any of you have ever thought of doing, I found it very much a gift to have this time, because you also realize how little you need. I mean, of course, you're not living your life and your job and the complexities that we all have in the city living, but you realize that you really don't need to consume very much to be happy and to live a meaningful life and to regenerate your sense of what's most important to you. And so in a way, the timing, the coincidence that this event was on our schedule was really sort of perfect for me. And I sort of love the idea that both the words halacha, which is in Jewish tradition, where we most had dialogue and debate around a table about what the meaning of our laws were going to be in our lives, how they apply to our lives, is the same meaning as the word dharma, which is the path. They both mean how to walk the path, the meaningful path, the path with values, and proud to be part of both of those traditions. So we're going to hear tonight from 4 great speakers on the air, on the earth, on the soil, on waste, on an innovative product that uses a sustainable resource for something we all need every day. We're really happy with these speakers. As you all know, we're in the state of California, where we are leaders in some ways in environmental innovations. And in other ways, we're an extremely populous state, and we consume a lot, and we have our problems with pollution, which you'll hear about, and we have a housing crisis and a homelessness crisis, but we're kind of in this very fascinating inflection point where we are both on the cutting edge on the state level of many great programs, and we are a great lab to see the result. If we don't cure problems, what will happen? I think we have a lot of cultural influence as Californians because of Hollywood and because of media and because of just how we are. Our economy is the biggest in the nation and like the 5th or 6th largest in the world. So it's very much important and incumbent on us to understand these issues of sustainability very, very, very well and better than we actually do. So I'm going to do a few fun trivia questions. I'll do it later. I feel like I want us to get started right now. We're going to hear about problem solving, and every one of these speakers is going to teach us something about their discipline and leave you with some takeaway that you can apply to your everyday life. So yes, without further ado, let me bring up our first speaker, or should we show the movie first and then I'll bring him up? We'll show a little clip to kind of give you some background about our first speaker.
Makes it easy to enjoy the outdoors, but of course here in Southern California you have to be wary of the air quality. Eyewitness News reporter Mark Cotarrubias has details on an app that can help you determine when it's okay to be outside.
These upcoming summer months are a popular time to be outdoors, though it's not necessarily the healthiest.
It all depends on the air quality.
Dr. Eli Hendel is a pulmonologist with Dignity Health Glendale Memorial Hospital. Although unpredictable, he says during the summer smog season, he often sees more patients.
There's more sun, there's more oxygen being electrified and producing ozone.
That's where the Air Quality Management District comes in. They have an app for that. It's already been available on Apple devices. Now they're launching an Android version, which will soon begin offering an hourly forecast 2 days out, with the ability to predict air quality levels for fine particulate matter and ozone.
Green is good, yellow is moderate. If you see anything in the red, that's when it's really unhealthy air.
Well, the asthmatics are the ones who suffer the most because they have exaggerated reactions to the same elements that other people will. Right now, it seems like the air is nice and cool and clean, but it is not. The air quality index right now, while we speak, is 83. Which is not good.
The AQMD thinks their app update is a great way for people who are heading out on a hike or planning other outdoor exercises to better plan their activities around the times of day when the air quality is predicted to be the cleanest. Dr. Hendel agrees.
Having an app that is readily available to everybody during the day will be very useful.
Reporting in Glendale, Mark Cotarrubias, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, so that'll give you some background for our first speaker. Lior Alpern has 20 plus years experience working in the nonprofit, government, and private sectors, through which he has formed relationships with corporate and government professionals, which have allowed him to influence local, state, and federal decisions in the creation of more eco-friendly and sustainable policies and strategies. His current work at the South Coast Air Quality Management District, AQMD, has led to the creation of this new app that you'll hear more about that allows you to track air quality levels in your area. Basically, the SCAQMD is also known as the Smog Busters. He's a former member of Binah and the lead in the ISC community, so we're very proud to have Lior Alpern.
Well, good evening and Erev Tov. First, join me in giving a round of applause to Daniel, Shlomit, the entire IAC team who spent hours and days and weeks and months putting this event together. You know, one of the tricks about giving a quick speech is telling people what the message is, and that video is quite intentionally meant to tell you what your action item is, which is to download the app, and I'll explain to you a bit more about that in a few minutes. But how many of you have ever had the experience of landing at LAX and you're standing outside of the arrival and suddenly you smell all this diesel exhaust? You're like, yep, I'm back in Los Angeles. Or when you're landing in Los Angeles and you see that man-made cloud. Well, there's a movie that I like called Crimson Tide, and there's a line there about, I don't trust air that I cannot see. Well, if you can see the air, it's not going to be good for you. But thank you very much for the opportunity to come and talk to you about something you may not think about, but you're doing it literally as we speak and every single day of your life. And it's something that if you care about the food that you eat and exercising, by show of hands, is there anybody who cares about those topics? Okay, this is the right place. Then this is a topic that if you may be already aware that it matters to you, but most importantly, the message of today is that air pollution is a man-made problem, has man-made solutions. We have been solving this problem, and we will solve the problem completely if we all work together. And so here's some historical photos of the air pollution here in Southern California, how bad it used to be. One of my favorite photos is this one right here. You can't even see it, but she is across the street from Los Angeles City Hall. And that's what that building right there. They used to burn their trash here in Southern California, and that's what you have over here. Industry, that's the Sepulveda Pass over there. It used to be much, much worse than it is today, and we've been making progress. And so you can see over here, there's some recent studies that are showing that even between 1998 and 2011, the significant lung deficits associated with air pollution have actually been reduced for 50-year-olds, where it used to be 8 out of 100 to down to 3.5 out of 100, and that's within just the last couple decades. We are making progress in cleaning the air, which is good news. However, the American Lung Association just produced a report that still shows that, you know what, we're in school, we want to be number one. Bad news. We don't want to be number one in terms of the worst air pollution, and that is unfortunately our air pollution status here in Southern California. So I'm going to hit you with a little bit of science, not too much. I know we're here to drink some wine and have some sushi, but here's what we're talking about when we're worried about air pollution. We're worried about fine particulates, which this little diagram right here shows you that are smaller than you can see with the eye. That's a strand of hair, the sand, and these are the particles that we're concerned about, that when we breathe it into our body and it gets into our bloodstream can cause significant damage. Also, there's ozone, which is what we see on those smoggy days, and air toxics. And I'll show you in the next few slides why these matter. You know, there's a lot of things in this world, especially it's very highly politicized times, that are controversial. Well, one thing that certainly is not controversial is that air pollution is bad for our health. And we have decades and decades worth of studies which can indicate to you that, you can see them listed here. I'm not going to read every single item here, but whether it's ozone or those particulates or toxics, causing significant health problems, especially for the young and for seniors and anyone who's living close to sources of air pollution, and I'll identify for you in a moment what those are. And so here's what we're looking at in Southern California on a typical hot summer day. The darker the color is the worse the air quality is. And essentially what you're seeing here are certain areas that have very, very high levels of that air quality index, which is the ozone and the particulates. Now, if any of you are looking at this map and saying, well, that really sucks for those people, but I live right here and that kind of looks okay, well, now we're going to hit you with a toxics map, and uh-oh, everybody's pretty much getting hit by this. One of my favorite parts of this map is right here. Now let's do a quick little question and answer. This is in the ocean. What's happening right here in the ocean would cause so much pollution? Anyone want to take a guess? What's out there?
Oil refineries.
The oil refineries, but I think I heard someone say shipping. It's the ships that are coming in and out of our ports. That's the shipping channels, especially the containers that are coming to and from Asia. Those ships are some of the most, using some of those polluting fuel that you can get on the planet called bunker fuel. And if you actually watch it, that's I-15 right there. The connection between transportation and air pollution is something we'll talk about, because the sources of air pollution, as you can see listed here, whether it be the dry cleaners and the auto body shops and industry, but especially on transportation, trains, trucks, the cars that we drive, ships, that's upward of 90% of all the pollution that we have in Southern California. And so it's actually appropriate we're sitting here right outside the expo line, which you see coming by, because The more transit that we have and the opportunities to help clean the air and people taking an option other than driving your own vehicle will help us clean the air. And so, what are the options available? That's where the app comes in. And I wouldn't be offended if you want to take out your phone and log on to the App Store or Google Play and download it as I explain it to you. As the video was explaining, the app actually taps into our 35 air quality monitors throughout Southern California and gives you updates every single hour as to what the air pollution levels are. And by the way, it also is very helpful. Anybody live in Santa Monica, Venice, maybe out towards Malibu? Well, we had this incident a few months ago of the fire, and a lot of people learned about the app at that time, and that's also very useful in those circumstances. We bring out remote sensors to find out what's going on. In addition to the air quality data, it provides you with information about where are the alternative fuel stations. Do we have anybody here who drives a plug-in electric car or a hydrogen car? Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that a lot of people who don't drive those cars is they're concerned about where to charge or where to find the hydrogen. This app will show you that. The very same map that shows you where the air quality levels are will also show you where the alternative fuel stations are. And the key thing, if you remember nothing else, is the number 1-800-CUT-SMOG. Does anybody know that number? Anybody ever call that number? We have one. That's my sister.
I knew it beforehand, though. I actually didn't know it was
So with this, what you could do is you can call us and report to us polluting industry, whether it be smoke or odors, and our inspectors can go and find out what's going on. But you could actually call, who's ever seen a vehicle with a lot of smoke coming out of the tailpipe? Anybody ever seen that? Well, roll up your windows, recycle the air, but call 1-800-CUT-SMOG and give us a license plate number. We're not law enforcement. They're going to get a letter from us, a sort of reminder. You may want to check out what's happening with your vehicle. But you're actually doing them a favor, because if law enforcement sees it, then they're actually going to get a ticket. Also, weather information is available there, and it's a very useful tool that puts everything at your fingertips. So with that, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to talk to you about something that affects our lives here in Southern California. We're making progress in cleaning the air, and working together, we'll get to a point where no one is breathing air that's harmful to their health. Thank you so much.
Is this on? Good. All right, let's take a couple questions for Leora. Anything you want to know about the air? Yes?
I have a couple questions. One is, you mentioned about the cars that have exhausts. Now, I understand that the DMV doesn't require certain cars at certain years to get smog checks, like the classic vintage cars. I don't know if that's true. I haven't looked into it. But can you guys work with the DMV and all these vehicle associations to make sure that that doesn't happen and all these vintage cars and old cars have to get smog checks? Because it drives me crazy when I see a car like that.
Let me just restate real quick.
As well as the buses, the Metro system buses have really huge cars that, it's now in a different area of the bus, but it's still emitting a lot of...
Okay, so a couple things. First, talk about, are the buses clean and green in both? I mean, there's several different cities. We have Santa Monica buses, LA County, Beverly Hills. How are the buses? And then we'll go to the other question.
So, in terms of going to alternative fuels, the transit agencies have actually been early adopters. Back in the 90s, Metro, the LA County Transportation Authority, started to very, very aggressively go towards natural gas. So much so they have the largest fleet of natural gas buses in the country of over 3,000 buses. But that doesn't mean, and you're right, that there could be circumstances where a bus is not functioning correctly, just like any vehicle I was describing that could have a lot of exhaust. So, in fact, if you report to us a bus, we can actually be more proactive on that, because Metro is a public agency, one of our sister agencies, and we can contact them, and immediately they'll pull that bus off the road and check it out. School buses have been a lot tougher to make progress, but we've been working on those. But certainly if you see a transit bus, Santa Monica Big Blue Bus has been very progressive, and we're pushing towards zero emission. We have near zero, which are like the natural gas and hydrogen, or natural gas, and we have the zero emission buses, which are electric and hydrogen. In terms of the vintage cars, those have been a little tougher to deal with, but frankly, they're really a small sliver of the vehicles that are out there. You can still call us when you see it, and maybe they still have to check something out in their vehicle, but I think that ultimately we have most of the vehicles that are out there, you should be able to report to us, and they are subject to citation from law enforcement.
The app has like a button you can push to call, right?
Yes.
Literally one button.
So if you don't
So
remember,
it's very satisfying for people like you, because it also drives me
if
crazy.
you don't remember that number, and I'm forgetting it, what was that number again? 1-800.
No, there's a single button.
No, but I totally forgot. 1-800. Mary, what's that? 1-800 cut smog.
Cut smog,
Okay. If you forget it, then you're right. You can click it off the app, and it's right in the middle. You can't miss it.
Okay, hang on. We didn't get to your first, and save the third one. Leora's sticking around, right? We're gonna keep him here. The other question was, just in general, are all cars subject to the same smog tests by the DMV? Do you guys work with the DMV, including these vintage and cool cars? Don't they all have to upgrade?
I believe, this is not my area of expertise, I believe there are some exemptions for those very old classic cars because they just cannot be compliant. But I'm not exactly sure because it is DMV, it's a different agency. But most vehicles that are operating, certainly those that are operating on a daily basis, likely do have to comply with emission regulations and therefore are subject to law enforcement. But the key message that we want to leave you with is call us with a license plate number and we can send them a letter. Doesn't matter who they are. They'll get a letter from us, and at least maybe that would help them to check out their vehicle, because you know what, you're doing them a favor. If a car is polluting that much, that's their dollars that are burning up because the car is not operating correctly if it's polluting that much.
But it is very frustrating. Okay, yes, question.
Do you work with the city of Los Angeles as well as Phil Washington, head of Metro, to collaborate with those buses? Because I know they let out a ton, and I know they're trying to move to diesel fuel. We have the Metro.
Clean diesel.
Clean diesel.
Yeah, it's another question about the bus system and does AQMD work with the buses?
So the answer is yes and yes. In terms of the City of Los Angeles, absolutely. In fact, we have a 13-member board, and the City of Los Angeles has one of its 15 council members on our board. And we also have board members that are also on the Metro board. In fact, I think my boss is meeting with Phil tomorrow. But absolutely, let us know if you see a polluting Metro bus. Give us a license plate. Actually, with a bus, you can actually give us the number of the bus that is written on there, and we can let them know.
Let me ask you something. I don't mean this. Are your colleagues at the AQMD all passionate anti-polluter people, or are they some of them sort of bureaucrats who just got moved into the AQMD positions from other government positions because they're good at government?
I'm the only one with any passion.
Oh no! Come on.
No, you know, I'll tell you, I have the privilege of working with roughly 800 other dedicated people at the AQMD, and they are truly passionate about this cause. And when you, if you have a chance to watch some of the films about people who live in what we call environmental justice territory areas around Southern California, it really pulls at your heartstrings, because we are looking at a scenario of about 5,000 premature deaths here in Southern California of people who live next to refineries or rail yards. And it's really something that in this day and age in the 21st century, that somebody, because of the air that they breathe, and it could be because also a socioeconomic factor that they can't live somewhere else, it's just not right, not fair. But you know what? We all are subject to the health effects of air pollution because we live here. But one of the things I wanted to mention is, you know what? It's not one or the other, and it's not Democrat, Republican. I've got both on my board. And that Clean Air Act that creates the standards we talked about, and we're getting cleaner, those were implemented by a Republican administration in the 70s. We can have more people living in Southern California, more economic activity, and the air can get better, because that's exactly what's happening over the last several decades. So it's not one or the other, but we can certainly continue to clean the air so that we can be at a point where no one has to breathe polluted air, and we can get there.
California Republicans, if I can insert my own, are the type we wish we had more of. Schwarzenegger just raised arms with Jerry Brown about the renewing of the cap and trade program until 2030. The two of them worked together on it. So it's one little bit of hope in our partisan era that the two of them both believe passionately in this. So,
and the business community very much deserves a lot of credit for helping get the air as clean as it is today. They've incorporated a lot of best available clean technology, and the business community has been a partner in this. And so, by the way, as business owners, and there might be some here, those health effects of air pollution, if your employee is subject to that, then they won't be able to come into work. And if they have loved ones they got to take care of at home who are suffering because of the air pollution, that hurts the bottom line. So air pollution is really bad for the economy.
Okay. Well, we got to move on. We got to keep moving. So, actually, one more question. Yes, you were.
So So I'm a little bit familiar with AQMD, and from what I understand, a lot of the ways that you work to reduce air pollution are through regulating industries and new technologies. Are there any programs to clean the air through planting trees or something like that?
Is planting trees and other methods of cleaning the air part of the AQMD mandate?
Well, I almost could have planted you there, because back in the table over there, I invite you to pick up the square paper I brought, which when you take it out of the plastic and put it in soil, it has seeds in it, and you can grow plants at your home, and that certainly helps to clean the air. And I invite you all to pick up one of our pens that if you pull over here, we'll tell you all about the efforts to clean it. We have had programs to, we've had our own programs, and we probably will again. But we also partner with some terrific organizations. I know I'm here for AQMD, but I'll plug another one called Tree People that are focused specifically on getting more trees out there. So thanks for the question, and don't forget about the tchotchkes out there.
Okay, thank you so much, Lior. How many of you, just by show of hands, I'm curious, have written the expo line? Okay, all right, so like 2/3, not even, about half, and that's even just once. So I take it sometimes when I'm going out downtown. I live in Venice, and first of all, just not to have to drive in rush hour traffic is a blessing in itself, but also it's a way to see LA in a way that you won't just from your car. Also, how many of you, by show of hands, feel that you understand what the cap and trade program is, even if it's just one sentence that you could say about what it is? How many of you, let me see, understand? Okay, cool. Well, it's something that is, I think, having a pretty good effect, and another, I want to keep us moving, so I won't talk much about it, but it is another bipartisan success story that California pioneered. We pioneered the program, but 8 Republican governors from other states have signed on to California's style of doing it, which creates business incentive for lowering your emissions, and then that tax that they pay for exceeding it goes to a lot of important environmental programs. So, okay, let's show the next clip before we bring up our next speakers, the Kumars, and show the Brush with Bamboo video.
Soil and farming that we realized plastic never decomposes. It never returns to the soil. That's why we started Brush with Bamboo. It took us 1.5 years of testing and retesting to develop a new version of our toothbrush.
I think this one is good.
We're proud to introduce the new all plant-based version of Brush with Bamboo.
Every aspect of this toothbrush is thoughtfully designed. We're now using a special type of bristle that's made from a base of vegetable oil made in the USA. The handle is 100% bamboo, totally biodegradable. And the wrapper is commercially compostable and plant-based.
The box is biodegradable and made entirely from paper. It folds together like origami without any tape or glue.
That makes every single component of this toothbrush plant-based. Bristle, handle, wrapper, and box. Our toothbrushes are also USDA certified bio-based, vegan, and we're a Green America certified company.
We're excited to introduce a kids version of Brush with Bamboo, something all the parents are going to be happy about.
We're also introducing other zero-waste oral care accessories, like 100% bamboo toothbrush travel cases and stainless steel tongue cleaners.
The goal of our company is to help move the world towards a zero-waste lifestyle. With your continued support, we hope to keep on producing environmentally friendly products that are good for us and good for our planet.
Hey, Mom, it's time to go.
Okay. So let me just quickly introduce, we're lucky to have Ro Kumar, founder and CEO of Brush with Bamboo, the leading brand of sustainable toothbrushes, trying to save us from the 5 billion plastic toothbrushes that never biodegrade and are used each year. And they've been around for 8 years. And also his mother, Manju, who is president of Brush with Bamboo and co-founder of the Growing Club, LA's first urban organic farm, which is out in Pomona. And if any of you want to go out and learn how to build your own organic farm, if you have any little backyard or area, they're the place to do it. She's also an Instagram star. If you want to look up Manju on Instagram, she is Zero Waste Farmer. So let's bring both of them up here now. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to be up here delivering our message.
So we'll just tell you a little bit about how Brush with Bamboo was started. So I was a student at Berkeley and I got brainwashed into sustainability and that whole world by being at Berkeley for 4 years. And at one point I was watching a documentary film about, it was called Plastic Planet. It's a European film about how every piece of plastic that has ever been produced in the world still exists. After watching that video, that same night I went to go brush my teeth with a plastic toothbrush, and that's around the time we had the idea for a sustainable toothbrush. There was a person watching the documentary film with me who happens to be the world's largest producer of bamboo textiles, who's a family friend of ours. And together with him, over the past 8 years, we have created and run Brush with Bamboo, which is right now one of the leading brands, if not the leading brand, of sustainable toothbrushes. Yeah, we make all the components of the toothbrush out of sustainable materials. We use a certified organic bamboo handle, bristles made out of vegetable oil, and compostable packaging. So the idea is that all of the plastic toothbrushes you've ever used in your entire lifetime still exist somewhere, either in a landfill or in oceans or in waterways. And the plastic toothbrushes were invented in the 1930s. Before that, all of the toothbrushes used to be wooden toothbrushes made out of bamboo or birchwood or other antibacterial woods that don't succumb to water mold. So really prior to 1930, all of our grandfathers and grandmothers, or great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers, were brushing their teeth with some type of wooden thing, or a twig, or some type of other tooth powder, something like that. So we've essentially revived that and used modern manufacturing to revive bamboo toothbrushes, which were actually originally invented during the Tang Dynasty in China in 760 AD. So it was something that was around for a really long time, and we brought it back. We use modern toothbrush machinery to produce the same thing that they used to produce a long time ago, but in a very efficient, organized way where the bristles don't fall out and stuff like that. So the goal of the company was, at the time, I had actually done 2 years of work in nonprofits, and I was realizing that I'm never going to make any money or buy a house this way. So I was looking, at that time, that was 2010, and I was looking at ways that you could, just given all the do-gooder stuff I had done, I was looking for something that I could make money and do good at the same time, make money and have some type of social impact at the same time. So the idea for Brush with Bamboo came along that it was conscious capitalism, which is a buzzword that is being popularized right now through the Whole Foods CEO, John Mackey, conscious capitalism. So the idea behind Brush with Bamboo is that every purchase of this toothbrush displaces a manual plastic toothbrush, which would have existed in the environment for at least a couple thousand years without biodegrading. So plastic never biodegrades, but our material is bamboo, and it's totally biodegradable. So that's Brush with Bamboo. We've been running it for 8 years. I initially started it on my own, and after some time my family came in because I have I belong to a family that's, all 4 of us are extremely involved in environmentalism. My younger brother is back there, and he's a pretty well-known urban farmer. He has a documentary film made about him, about how he started the first urban farm in LA. My mother is also involved in urban farming. She helped to also start the first urban farm in LA, and she's involved in a nonprofit which helps people to grow their own food and build soil, restore depleted soil. So it kind of lended itself I naturally came into this industry, so now my mom is going to say a few words about what she does, and thanks for having us again.
So I want to start off by saying I'm extremely proud of my family and what my family has accomplished. Each one of us, there's never been that challenge of, oh, I have to convince this person or not. We've all really kind of grew up in this environmental movement. We were all watching the plastic documentaries together, and we all wanted to do good. And each one of us are involved in the company business, and each one of us also are branched in a different way, where we are doing something unique in the whole scope of things. I'm really proud of the way we live and the way we work. So our house is a role model of what houses in LA should look like. We do water harvesting, we do a ton of composting. In fact, it could be close to maybe 40 to 60 tons of organic waste that we have composted in our 5,000 square feet. We grow. I don't have any grass. We got rid of all of the grass in our house. We have an edible forest. I have over 80 to 90 edible fruit trees. We eat the fruit from our house all year long. Every month there's at least 3 to 5 fruits that I can harvest. We have an organic farm where we teach others how to grow organically. So a lot of this stuff that we're doing it at a very individual level. And I say my message would be that for the future, all of us need to dig in. The problem can be monumental and a worldwide problem, but the solution is going to come at the individual level. I just wanted to say to the AQMD, instead of trying to solve the problems, working only with large corporations, work with a homeowner, because it's the homeowners and the condo owners, they're the ones that can plant a city, they can plant a state, they can plant a community. Give them the resources to grow trees, to grow plants, to, at the individual level, make a big impact. So that's what we've been doing. That's what we're role modeling. That's what Zero Waste Farmer is all about. It's about my day-to-day life. How do I reduce plastic? I grow my own food. I cook my own food. I preserve my own food. I do things, I look for secondhand things, thrift things. I avoid polyester and polyester or plastic products. I just want to see our time too.
Oh, good. Let me ask you some questions.
Yeah, sure.
Want to finish up? Okay. So let me, are we on?
How about now? Great. So your toothbrushes last, I'm told by my dentist to use one for about 3 months. Is that about the same with you?
Yeah, our toothbrushes last, it's recommended to change every 3 months, but I've used it for as long as a year just to test durability. So it lasts the same. We use the exact same machine, the plastic toothbrush machine. Everything works the same.
And regardless of where you throw it out, it's still going to biodegrade, whether it's conventional garbage or a compost, it's still going to be...
The handle is a piece of wood. It's bamboo, so you could pretty much put that anywhere. You could burn it. You could put it in random piece of dirt.
Don't burn it. Okay, the next speaker says that. And you were very nice to bring us, we all have a voucher, right? Everybody has a voucher to get one, so please assemble it, and all the friends that come over will see you using it. You can tell them a little bit. Have you watched the movement against plastic straws with some curiosity, given that it has taken on fairly quickly a little bit of momentum, even though people might think, oh, straws, they're so small. Is it really a problem? But, you know, very quickly a lot of restaurants and delis and such are using only paper straws. Have you sort of thought, oh, can we get in there and have the same momentum?
I just want to say one thing. Any natural material, you want to compost it. So if you put it in a landfill bin, it's not going to do you any good. So that's one thing I want to clear.
Yeah, and regarding the straws, it would be great if something like that happened with toothbrushes. And we actually do manufacture bamboo drinking straws in India, which we've sold for well before the whole plastic straw thing happened. But it's great, it's symbolic of a larger consciousness that's coming about, that people are eliminating plastic straws. Even in our home country where we come from, India, I went to every single restaurant, only had paper straws. So that's great. It signals awareness, but also we have to move on to all the other products as well.
Do you have any luck with dental associations? And because when I go to the dentist and I arrive having eaten lunch, they say, okay, before you go in for your cleaning, go in the bathroom, there's a disposable plastic toothbrush in there. And the first time I went, there's a whole thing of them. I took a couple extra for home in case I have a sleepover, in case I go somewhere else. You know, it's just an instinct. And then I thought later, what do I need these for? You know, they're just, but they were actually pre-toothpasted. They had dried toothpaste, so you literally just needed to, you know, wet it so the dentist doesn't get your bad breath. How can you talk to any dental associations and get them to kind of help out?
We are getting very good support from two dental associations which exist, which is the Green Dental Association and the Eco Dentistry Association, I believe it is. But from regular dentists associated with the ADA, we are getting a closed door because there's probably lots of reasons. You know, yeah, exactly, pay to play. So most dentists get lots of free toothbrushes from the big toothbrush companies, and also probably lots of other free perks and stuff like that. So we get shut down pretty fast from your average dentist, but from a lot of dentists, particularly in this area, San Francisco, Berkeley, New York City, Brooklyn, in those areas, we have lots of customers that are dentists. But everywhere else, not so much.
I just realized we had a dentist give a Binah talk years ago, who's a major reconstructive surgeon and to the stars, but we had him because he also fixes people's smiles and oral deformities for free to poor people, and he's a wonderful menschy guy, and he's a major player with celebrities, and I'm going to connect you afterwards and see if he will. Okay, question in the back there? Yeah, sorry. Yes.
So I coincidentally went to a dentist this morning, and after him handing me the baggie with all the not single use, but the toothpaste and the little toothpaste, and I said, no thank you, I have enough. I asked him, why don't you, because it's a really like fancy clinic in New York, but I said, how come you're not going more eco and more green, and you should be that dentist that, you know, shows lights the way to the Palisades to go with the bamboo, and what do you think about it? And he said that something about the bristles of the toothbrush harbors bacteria. And I said, that's interesting, why wouldn't the bacteria, you know, live in the plastic? And he said, I don't know, for some reason they don't. So I said, well, let's keep this going. He said, email me, you do the research. If you find that it's good, I'll put it in the goodie bag.
So he basically had a typical shutdown because he's heard, he was open to you coming back, but you do the work. And he just sort of heard that they harbor bacteria. Is there any truth to that?
I would not think so, because we use the exact same machinery and material. Like we use a nylon bristle, but ours is vegetable oil nylon. But a lot of plastic toothbrush brands use the same nylon. Okay. So we're really using the exact same materials as a plastic toothbrush. The main thing is we're subtracting the entire, you know, polycarbonate plastic handle.
Is that anything you've heard before from like that?
Yeah, we've heard that. Yeah, I mean, we definitely.
Misinformation, though.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's an opinion. Wood. That's why bamboo is so popular for toothbrushes and certain other types of wood which are naturally antimicrobial and defend themselves naturally against bacteria. That's why bamboo is being used rather than like redwood or something like that.
But was it the bristles or the handle? The bristles.
The bristles would be exactly the same, so it wouldn't make sense for the bristles, but I could see the argument coming from the bamboo side, yeah, that you do have to keep our toothbrush cleaner than your plastic toothbrush.
I use an electric toothbrush, and when I open it once a month, I don't even and dump whatever accumulates in there. So I'm not sure.
Do you have an electric version for those?
We don't have an electric version because we're working on that, but we can't create an attachment to an existing brand's electric toothbrush because that would be like patent problems, but we could eventually develop our own, but we don't have an electric version.
Sorry, just a question. Do you have also a line that does single-use toothpaste?
We don't currently sell it, but there are other brands and we're working on our own formulations for toothpaste tablets, which is single use. You pop a pill and chew it and then that's the toothpaste. Or there's also toothpaste in a glass jar, toothpaste in an aluminum tube. There's options for zero waste toothpaste. I use tablets sometimes and I have aluminum tube toothpaste also.
Okay, all right, one last question, quickly, go ahead.
I'll try to.
Quick one.
I love green business success stories. It's very heartening. When did you, in the course of your journey, realize you had a real profitable business? Like, what was it, the inflection point? And what percentage of consumers do you think care enough about this that they will make your pitch like the reason for buying toothpaste?
Okay, so the question is about when did he realize that he had a successful business and an eco-sustainable business that was scalable, and are the customers buying it because of the eco reasons?
So we're pretty much profitable after like 4 months. So we had a profitable business for the last like 7.5 years, almost 8 years. And the market to me was pretty obvious right from the get-go because, for example, all the cups we're using tonight were Greenware, that's a profitable company. So the market is there, it's growing. The amount of people that are aware of plastic pollution and willing to pay a slight premium for, our cost is right there with a plastic toothbrush. If you pick up a plastic toothbrush for $4 at a CVS or Walgreens, we're right there. You can pick our toothbrush up for $4 or $5. So we're right there. We don't have the margin they do. Their margin is crazy. Their only cost is like 1 penny and they're selling it for $4. Our margin is not like that, but we're competing with them. And the market is there, it's growing. It's the same customer that will shop at your Whole Foods or your organic store that buys our toothbrush.
Yours is available at Whole Foods?
We're
getting a free one, but if we want to get one after.
We're in 20 or 30 Whole Foods. We're still expanding with them. We're not really national yet at all, but we're in lots of other Erewhon grocery and Santa Monica Co-op. We're in lots of those stores around here.
I walk into Erewhon and my wallet throbs.
Yeah,
it just hurts my pants. But okay, we need to move on. So I want to thank you both. Thank Ro and Manju for coming so much. Please stay. I'm sorry, I know there were a couple questions, but please stay and you'll get to talk to them after. I just want to keep us moving. And Manju, I want to say that I think if you could get your ad to teach people to have an organic home. I recently bought a small home in the desert, and I'm telling you that because of the data collection, they know that you bought a little home, and you start getting the most interesting mail. And immediately, first of all, you get mail saying, I want to buy your home for cash. But you also get home security and insurance and inspection, and the data goes out. So if you can get in there, you just bought a home. Let me tell you how to make it organic and to get produce and to get vegetables and to make it green and have the butterflies and birds come around. I would love to. That is the one flyer I would follow up on. So I'm going to do the trivia after Lauren. We're going to do Kiss the Ground, Lauren Tucker next. Do you want to show the movie and then I'll introduce her? So we'll do a quick video about Kiss the Ground.
We know more about the stratosphere and the atmosphere than we know about the soil at our feet. And the soil at our feet contains 1 billion microorganisms per teaspoonful. Those microorganisms, they need to eat. What do they need to eat? They consume organic matter. And organic matter exudes the nutrients the plant needs. That's poorly understood. And that's a huge reason why chemical agriculture has destroyed the life in the soil.
What's in our soil? is what we eat and what we're comprised of. We have to build up the mineral content in our soil so that we have mineral-dense, nutrient-dense food that then equates to healthy people.
Soil really is the nutritional bank account for our existence. When I'm looking for who I want to be farming, who I want to be growing for our restaurants, who is a steward of the land, who is building soil while they're producing food. And that's what we're supporting with Cafe Gratitude.
And when people eat the Sexy 7 kale same-day Caesar salad that we're putting on the menu right now, they are literally vibrating afterwards. It's a visceral feeling.
As an urban farmer, we focus primarily on reducing waste. We practice regenerative agriculture, which basically composts and vermicomposts everything on the farm, turning it back into optimum soil. And optimum soil equals optimum health.
It's really been such a joy to bring healthy eating into my family and into my son's life. And we both feel the difference. You can just see the vitality. And his connection to nature is a little more intact. He really likes worms and he likes digging in the garden. And he's interested about where the foods he ate came from. And he's interested to see a seed turn into a plant that turns into something on his plate.
I think we can all do our role in building healthy soils, even if you're not a farmer. The best thing you can do is try to compost your organic waste. If you have a curbside commercial compost collection, utilize that service. If you don't have that service, start up a community composting bin in your apartment complex.
We can either throw a banana peel into the trash, go to the landfill, and create methane gas, which is more potent greenhouse gas than CO2, or we could look at that banana peel and the potential of it. If we were to compost it, it's not just returning the banana peel to the soil. The potential of it is all of the life that will form because we fed the banana peel. All of a sudden, we're returning life to the soil, which is why healthy soil exists, and we can make even more healthy food.
Together, we can do something that we've never done before. Take the stuff we're putting in landfills, compost it, make it into organic fertilizers, and restore soil.
Soil health.
Okay, so we've got Lauren Francis Tucker here, hang on, who began Kiss the Ground 6 years ago after accumulating experience in the nonprofit sector and various farming initiatives. She has passion for community building and sustainable gardening practices through Kiss the Ground's agricultural goals of global soil regeneration. Now they have grown, and their organization focuses on advocacy, farmland, education, and media as outlets for advancement of these goals. She's going to upend some beliefs of yours probably about all of these subjects. Please welcome Lauren Francis Tucker.
All right. So, what was happening here before European settlers came? In some of our ecosystems, we had beavers that were managing our rivers. They were building dams. They were allowing the water to infiltrate and soak in. They were storing all the nutrients before they were washed out through the watershed to the sea. We had buffalo that were roaming, or bison that were roaming the Great Plains, and they were being chased by predators, by wolves, by mountain lions, by bears, and so they didn't stay in the same place for very long. They traveled in tight herds, they fertilized, they slept, they ate, and then they moved on. So these ecosystems were thriving. And then we had a series of management decisions that have led us to today. We're just gonna roll through some of the highlights. We killed the bison. We killed most of the beavers. Some of it was for the furs and for food and for lack of understanding of the ecosystems. Some of it was a way to remove indigenous people from land. Then we tilled the soil with plows, and we planted a lot of monocultures. Fast forward to the 1930s, we had a major drought, and what happened was in a couple hundred years, we tilled and removed so much topsoil and removed so much of our ecosystems that the soil blew from the middle of the country, it blew all the way to the White House steps. It was pretty dramatic. This is called the Dust Bowl. Then we started using chemicals in the 1800s. They were part of our agricultural systems because when we were farming monocultures, we started to get more and more pests and things that we couldn't control. And so we started using pesticides. We also started using fertilizers. Zyklon B in particular was used in Nazi concentration camps to kill humans, and then the same factories that were producing it just kept on producing it after the war. And so we got a proliferation of this nice chemical among others. So come to today, thankfully not all of our farms look like this, but a lot do. And we've optimized the system of efficient farming, or what we're calling efficient farming. So I would argue that there's actually a myth, a cultural myth or story that's behind all these land management decisions. Because nobody set out to destroy the Great Plains. I don't think that was an intention. Nobody set out to blow topsoil all over the country. Nobody set out to have chickens in tight cages. But we have made a series of decisions over the years from a cultural myth that we are separate from nature, that we are actually not part of the ecosystems, that ecosystems are here for us to harvest, and ecosystems are here for us to profit off of. And it's not left us in a great place. This talk will get more exciting, I promise. We're gonna go down and then we're gonna go up. So, in 2015, the UN said we have 60 harvests left due to desertification. These are major areas of desertification all over the world that are having trouble growing food and will continue to desertify. We have a lot of carbon in the atmosphere. We've heard that's kind of bad. Our use of, this is just glyphosate, one farm chemical, but our use of chemicals that are toxic to people and animals and ecosystems and waterways, and a lot of people would say are actually causing things like autism, they're on the rise. Biodiversity loss, 40% is the 40% of biodiversity that we're not concerned about. The rest is not looking so hot. And as an environmentalist, we're asked to, okay, you know, this is pretty bad, and we're asked to decrease our footprint. Live lighter, you know, don't buy that, don't buy this. Try to not drive so much. Decrease your footprint. So if we went back to what was happening in these ecosystems before European settlers came, and I don't want to paint a perfect, beautiful picture of the past, because I wasn't there, I don't know what it was like. But we could argue that there was a different story, a different cultural myth that was happening to cause people to live in North America and in other places on the planet for thousands of years in a relationship with their ecosystem, and in a healthy relationship. This is a picture of the Amazon. There's some amazing archaeological work that's coming out now that's showing that in places where indigenous people were the most concentrated, that actually produced the most fertile soil for trees and biodiversity to grow. So people are actually planting in the Amazon, composting their food waste, and in a relationship with their ecosystem that improved it, that created a lot of the Amazon that we know today. So, am I suggesting that we just go back? We go live in teepees maybe and let the bison roam free? I'm not, because it doesn't feel logical, or I don't know. How many people would sign up for that? Okay, I mean, I would, but I wouldn't assume we could get everyone. I actually want to talk about an opportunity that has us step in to a story of interbeing, a new cultural myth, a new way of relating to our relationships to the environment, to our ecosystem. And that's the opportunity of regenerative agriculture. And this is the work that I do in the world, is I promote and create educational tools with an amazing team, and we educate about regenerative ag. And regenerative agriculture is many things, but the very basic tenet, I'm not going to talk about specific ag practices right now, but the very basic tenet of regenerative agriculture is that you're in a relationship with the ecosystem and making management decisions on your farm that improve its health. And when we manage farms in this way, we can sequester carbon because plants breathe carbon, and when soil is healthy, it actually can be sequestered. We can increase water efficiency, so when it rains, that water can be more efficiently held in the soil. We have a lot of farmers who are increasing their profit. Some are going from $2 an acre to $100 an acre, or $1,000 an acre. Really, really high increases in profit. And regenerative agriculture at its most basic understanding is a mindset. Yes, there's a bunch of practices and principles that go along with it, and I can teach you those, but we're not gonna really go there. But this is a fence line shot. This is in a very dry environment. And all that's different is different property managers and different management decisions. And on this side, this is pretty fuzzy big, but on this side we have a lot of bare soil and desertification, and you see that the plants aren't thriving. On this side, if the slab were bigger, you would see that it just has, you know, in some places knee-deep grass. Biodiversity, you know, there's more animals that are coming to this land. And the only difference in a dry desert environment that this picture is showing is the story and the understanding from which we're coming. So again, just to reiterate, this isn't a hippie thing. These are some of my good friends who are working in this field. This is Gabe Brown. He owns 5,000 acres in North Dakota. He's a Republican. He is living a story of interbeing. He's a regenerative farmer. This is my friend Passion Murray. She lives and works in Detroit. She started a composting company in the city. She's running around with others picking up compost. She's doing it. She's living a story of interbeing. Will Harris in Georgia, he was a conventional farmer, and he decided to make a management choice on his farm because they were failing. They were gonna lose the farm. And they went from 15 employees to over 200. They revitalized an entire town in Georgia. This is my friend's nonprofit called Fibershed. They do the work that we do, but in fiber systems. So they're working with farmers who are sequestering carbon on amazing regenerative farms and making clothing. So this is from their fashion show in New York, where they're showing off really hip, cool pieces of clothing made from climate beneficial fiber. And then these are goats in New York. So just a reminder that, you know, we can get some of these land management decisions into cities. So the invitation is to actually increase your footprint, because it's possible and it's fun. And to me, I don't want to live a life of don't do that, don't do that. Oh no, no, you can't really do that. So there's tons of things you can do. You can grow something, you can compost, you can divest, you can teach, you can, I highlighted the Drawdown book here. It's an amazing piece of work by Paul Hawken. It catalogs 100 ways to draw carbon out of the atmosphere. You can get a job in one of those fields. You can change your business. We work with a lot of big corporations and small businesses who are working on this. You can download this really cool app made in Venice called Dashboard Earth, which takes the drawdown book and puts it into 5 things you can do every day. You can work within your community. You can take one of our courses. Yeah, tons of things you can do. But it's all about stepping into this story of interbeing and doing it one step at a time. Because if we all take a little step and then take a little step further, we're gonna get there together. One last thing before we wrap up. There's a lot of different sides of the fence. There's a lot of politics. We have a lot of arguments between sides. And I'd love to put forward an idea that the way we're gonna get to this cultural myth of interbeing and the way that we're gonna live in a world that's thriving, where we actually all care for each other, is through love. And I'm actually not talking about the kind of love where like we all hug each other. I mean, I like hugs, but I'm talking about the way we find that thing in our environment that we just love so much, and that being our common ground. So I think probably most of us can cite a time when there was a bird or a stream or that place you played as a kid that no longer exists. And that is the key to Republicans and Democrats coming together. That is actually the key to farmers transitioning. The more farmers I talk to, the #1 reason people move from conventional farming to regenerative ag and stick through it in the really hard moments when they're not sure if they can make that transition is because they see the birds coming back and the bees coming back and the animals coming back, and they can feel the vibrancy. And that's about love. Oh, where's my slide? Nope. There was the final slide.
Thank you, Lauren.
The final slide just had our website, which is kisstheground.com, and we have online courses, we have tools, we have a middle school curriculum, we also have a farmer training program, so we give scholarships to farmers.
The next time you have a fundraiser for that, I will plug it much. Do you have that final slide while we do a couple questions? Okay. Anybody have questions for Lauren about the soil, about the, yes, go ahead, Karen.
What's a regenerative fiber?
What's a regenerative fiber?
Like what kinds of fibers are
Yeah.
Was the cotton she was wearing, was that?
Yeah, so Fibershed, right now they're working a lot on wool, hemp, and cotton. But we're talking about, I think a lot of times we think about food coming from land, but we don't think about clothing coming from land. And so we're not talking about synthetic fibers, which unfortunately a lot of our clothing is today. But
I need that wicking. I need that magic wicking that I'm supposedly getting from all the polyester and the
just
nylon.
wear some deodorant, you know?
Or wool.
Or e-bever, maybe you won't wick so much.
So anyone else, yeah, from the questions? Yeah, another one, Karen, go ahead. Do a follow-up.
Are there regenerative cotton farms?
Not exactly, but a lot of us in this collective community are working on a regenerative cotton pilot right now. So a lot of this work is, we're building a new system globally, and in some ways it's an old system, and in some ways it's an iteration of the old and the new put together. And so we have businesses investing, we have people learning, we have pilots going on, we have farmers doing it, but it's like building blocks all at the same time. So it's in progress, and you can totally.
Where's the farm?
There's a regenerative cotton pilot in California right now.
Ori, yeah.
Yeah, so I noticed you have a child. I have 3 young children, and it's not easy to get them into, well, for me, it's not easy to get them into living a more sustainable life. And one thing that I'd like to do with them is compost, because it seems like the most easy thing we could do. But I remember as a young child, we bought one of those big black things, and it just sat in the backyard, and we would throw food in sometimes, and that was it. So what does it really take to compost? And is it something that a family that has never done it before can do.
So the question is about composting. How can you get kids to kind of make it fun and care about it and make it effective and not just a kind of black hole of banana scraps that you don't actually feel are doing anything?
100% you can totally do it. There are many, many ways to compost, and I could detail them on stage, or I could refer you to a really awesome video that Rishi and I just worked on that's on our website. We also have an urban gardening course that's in person and online that we're sharing, but super basic, like you could dig a hole, cover it up. That's like the most basic compost. You can get worms. They eat a ton of stuff. There are a couple things they don't love, but they're contained in a bin, and as long as you keep them out of sun, you can totally work with that. And then, yeah, there's tons of ways to compost in bins in your yard. So but there's a lot of resources that we could share.
And what's the way to make it fun for kids? How can they see some progress or some measurable effect from the composting?
I think worms are the way in for kids. Sometimes they're freaked out by them.
Boys, I know you know. Or yeah, girls.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know why I said that.
I think it's also, it might be a better chore than the dishes. I don't know.
Can you say something about your slide about the Amazon? I think you were making the point that actually we're finding out that as much as we think of the Amazon as God's gift that was just lush and full of bird song and waterfalls, that you're saying some of it was actually planted, and that we're finding out that this thing was actually cultivated by people intentionally. How does increasing our footprint, this is the sort of counterintuitive thing, can you kind of clarify that for everybody?
Sure. So 2 questions in there. Amazon first. The whole thing we don't think was planted by humans, so I don't want to like put forward super misinformation. But they're finding that there are areas that looked like they were heavily composted, and the biodiversity in those areas are the highest. And so what we can take from that is that the interaction between the way people lived in that place actually helped create more fertility and more abundance. It was true here in California. Most of the native plants that we see here were actually intentionally cultivated by the people who lived here. And so they would take plants that made better food or medicine and spread those seeds more and tend. There's an amazing book that I'm not all the way through, but it's called Tending the Wild, and it's a story of California. And what it was like here, and what the interrelationship, how the people who lived here cultivated this beautiful place that we're now enjoying.
And then so increasing your footprint, just what is that concept, so people kind of walk away with the clarity on that?
Yeah, to me, the idea of decreasing your footprint is a really immobilizing idea. So if I think, okay, I should tread lighter on the earth, I should, do less that's harmful. It's kind of like,
here.
Yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna drive my car and go to work. Like, this is stressful. But the concept of increasing your footprint is, get together with friends and figure out how it can be joyful, because it can be. Like composting, totally increasing your footprint. You're stepping into participating instead of saying, you know what, I'm gonna try not to buy that much food, or it's flipping that idea, and I think it's more empowering.
Any last question for Lauren? Anybody? Yes, go ahead.
So I feel like there's this notion out there that I'm quite skeptical of personally, but I feel it's gotten some traction, that regenerative agriculture won't scale to population growth. And I have no idea if that's yes or if there's truth to it. Could you speak to that? Like, do you feel like that's just wrong? Could we actually feed the 8 or 9 billion people we're going to have on this type of strategy?
Can regenerative agriculture scale, as opposed to what? Just pumping fertilizers and GMOs? Okay.
Yeah. I wish I had pulled up these stats. I actually thought about putting a slide in here with this. So I don't have the stats front of mind, but the majority of the land in the US is growing corn, soy, alfalfa, some cotton, and wheat. And the majority of those crops are actually going to feed animals that could eat other things like grass, or food waste if you're a pig or chicken. And a lot of the corn is going to create ethanol. So a lot of our commodity crop global agriculture is actually not going to feed people. The other piece of it is we have an insane amount of food waste. Like the amount of food waste is like 40%. It's a staggering statistic. How much
it doesn't even get consumed?
Maybe there's a certain portion that never makes it off the farm because of the farm economics of it. Like, oh, it's not profitable to sell this, I'll just till it under. And then there's a big portion that kind of dies in the supermarket to consumer space. So those are two things. And the other piece of it is the majority of farms that are farming in this way are farming multiple crops, adding in animals, adding in trees. And so you're stacking many things in one place. And so we're actually finding that single pieces of land can be more productive, just not in a conventional way and in a monocropped way. And I can talk about this for hours.
Well, can you stick around? If anybody has more questions, we got to move on. Please, let's hear it for Lauren Tucker. Thank you. Okay, so I have a couple of quick, fun trivia questions, and then we will get to our final speaker. We have, no? Do we have time? After. Okay, trivia questions after. We have some really great pens to give away. Tonight we have two kinds of pens. We have from the AQMD, which have great maps. What's inside that scroll?
10 things you can do to clean the air.
Things you can do to clean the air. And we also have plantable pens that when they run out, will give you a beautiful Eastern redbud tree. And so I have some fun facts about Israeli sustainability innovations and firsts and things like that. But I want to just keep, while you guys are being so awesome and supportive to our speakers, I want to give you our last final speaker, Jonathan Levy. Do we want to show a little video first? Okay, and then I'll introduce him. I'll show a quick, short. That's the BuzzFeed logo.
We got a 7-pound bag of trash. We only have 193 pounds to go. The reason why we're separating the food from the food soil paper is because for the purpose of you guys expanding your composting program that you have here, you wouldn't want to put any of the paper in it. You'd want to put only the food waste.
So I took out of the bag a completely unused pile of paper napkins. Oh my God! There's more. Like we can actually reuse these, right? Or no?
Oh my God, you guys throw away so many aluminum cans in the trash and glass bottles. You hear that?
We found some Paralike members in the trash. Jonathan?
What's it made out of?
It's like a foam core.
Trash.
They unfortunately go right in the trash. Sorry, Paralike.
Ooh, it's a heavy one. 20 pounds. This one is 9.6 pounds.
We got a new amazing volunteer because we had so much trash.
Yeah.
So Ryan's coming to help out.
So when I was opening up this bag, I found inside it many bags of just bagels that it looked like they were unused. So 1 bag, 2 bags, 3 bags. Let's see what else. Oh, look it! Another bag of bagels.
Oh my God, this is all the food waste so far.
Wow.
I'm learning that we could do a lot better. I feel like people don't think about what they're throwing away. They just toss.
Come on out, thanks for coming. Do you want a hug? Oh. Smells great, right? So all this trash.
Jonathan Levy is an environmental consultant as well as activist who helps businesses and jurisdictions comply with California's progressive environmental policies. After personally auditing hundreds of trash dumpsters and overseeing the auditing of thousands more, Jonathan launched ZeroWasteGuy.com, where he makes observations on the challenges and successes of implementing waste reduction strategies, as well as actions individuals can take to reduce their waste. Please welcome Jonathan Levy.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone, for having me here tonight. When Daniel told me I was batting cleanup, I thought that was very, very great pun that he didn't even realize he was doing or saying, because trash always comes last, right? It's that thing that you don't want to deal with And there's a huge history, specifically in Southern California, about the "don't worry, we will take care of it for you," that has led us on this path of throw it in the trash, don't worry about it. And it's kind of led us on a path to where we are completely disconnected from what our products are made out of and what actually happens to them when we no longer need them. And it's just such a fascinating thing. I mean, you guys saw that video I did with BuzzFeed. That was their campus. They have a campus in Hollywood with over 400 employees. And that was just one day worth of trash. And if you were to go through I'll do the same thing right here. I'll say, a show of hands, how many people here recycle? Everyone, right? Well, you saw all the recyclables that were in the trash. You saw all the compostable material. I mean, we saw the edible food. Lauren just spoke to that a minute ago. All the edible food that was in the trash.
Bagels for a Jewish audience.
Bagels. They also had like a pound of raw meat, that like uneaten like beef or something that was in there too. It was crazy. It's crazy how much gets thrown away in the trash. And I mean, just on Monday, I gotta tell you guys, I was talking with Karen earlier and then with Rohit. I was at a material recovery facility. Actually, let me take one quick question. Everyone said they recycle, right? And once you put it in the blue bin, what happens to it next? Does anyone know? You just yell. I got a ringer in here, knows exactly what happens to a sorting facility. We have and you can recycle for cash. But there's this perception that once you throw it in the blue bin, you can consider it recycled. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that just because you put it in a bin, you're sorting it into a container does not mean that it's getting recycled. That's where we're taking out the plastic number one. That's where we're taking out the plastic number two. That's where we're taking the styrofoam. And I tell you what, it all looked the same to me from the very beginning to the middle to the end. And once it got to the end, he goes, okay, yeah, well, I mean, that's gonna probably, we're gonna stack it up over here because, you know, I mean, it's recyclable, but we need a truckload of it. And when we have a truckload, we're gonna ship it to Indiana. And I said, what happens to it in Indiana? And he said, I don't know, someone's buying it. And I think that's the mistake that we made. Everyone's heard probably by now here about the China ban. And when I ask people, like I just talk to people, I go, yeah, China doesn't take our trash anymore. Most people don't say China doesn't take our recycling anymore. They say China doesn't take our trash anymore. Because if we're being honest, it was probably trash. If you could just throw everything in one container and just trust that it's going to get magically sorted out, that they're going to take the cap off the water bottle, they're going to remove the label, they're going to dump out the liquid, and if it had some sort of soda in it, they were going to sanitize it. If you believe that's going to happen, it's going to bailed into a big 1,000-pound brick, put in a 40-foot shipping container, shipped 6,000 miles all the way to China, opened up, and there's going to be something of value. I think that we were kind of lying to ourselves. We weren't being honest. And it's just such an interesting position to be in as someone who, as Daniel said, is like knee-deep in trash almost every single day of my life, working with businesses on ways to reduce the trash. And there's really, I mean, we could talk all day about how there's just not enough earth for all the consuming that we're doing. And the days of just being able to throw it in a bin and just consider it recycled because it was getting shipped somewhere around the country, somewhere around the world, excuse me, those days are over. And a lot of people are expressing concern over the lack of infrastructure. China won't take it anymore. Well, I'm actually looking at this as a good thing because now this trash is right up in front of us. It's right in our faces. We cannot ship it away anymore because away doesn't exist. Away has rejected our loads. Away doesn't want it. I'm sure a lot of you have also seen that Indonesia is sending recycling back. Malaysia is sending recycling back. All these places are saying, wait a second, we don't want your garbage. Sending it back. And I brought a note. I want to make sure I had a point I wanted to make. It's getting very worked up over that. What I thought was really interesting about tonight is we didn't have water represented here, but we had air, we had soil, and we had sustainable products. And one thing they all have in common is they all interact with waste, with the waste management system in some way. I'm a huge advocate, if you wonder, like, what's the solution is go zero waste. And when I say zero waste, I don't literally mean no waste. I don't know if you saw, I have a piece of paper in my hand right now. When I'm done with it, I'm just going to throw it on the ground and hope someone picks it up and... Come on, guys, it's the joke. I'm not going to throw it on the ground. I'm going to throw it in a recycle bin and hope that it goes to a recycle center and someone recovers it and is able to bale it and then sell it and turn it into more paper. But the point is, everyone who spoke today interacts with waste in some shape, some form. It's incredibly important, and yet it's the one thing that we just say, just set it and forget it. Throw it away, it's not my problem, it smells, it's sticky, it's stinky, it's big, it's whatever, I don't want to deal with it. And because we don't care, now we have all this, or we've historically not really thought about it, we have all this material lined up right in front of us. And the way it interacts with us, like I said, zero waste, this is this concept. You guys know that someone can just yell out the 3 R's?
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
So there we go. So a couple of people honed in on it. Reduce, reuse, recycle. And it's what's that? Refuse. Yeah. But the historic one, the reduce, reuse, recycle, this idea that you reduce what you don't need, you can repair things, there's a lot of ways that you can reduce, but then you can also reuse what you can't reduce, and then recycle what can't be reduced or refused or repaired or whatever. And when it comes to actually like the definition of zero waste, we look at it in terms of no bury. We don't want to bury anything in a landfill, because when you bury it in a landfill, that resource is no longer available to us. We also don't want to burn. The one thing that Rohit had said earlier that I'm just going to address is he said that all the plastic that has ever been created still exists. And that is true with one exception. We burn a lot of our trash, a lot of our plastic. There's an incinerator that's still active today in the city of Long Beach that burns all the black bin trash that is thrown away in the city of Long Beach. I'm not throwing out Long Beach, that's just what the infrastructure is in Long Beach. So think about the types of things that people throw in their black trash bin. I could name some of them. Some of them are toxic, some of them are harmful, some of them aren't. But if you're in Long Beach, in addition to the refineries and everything else, you're also getting trash that's burned. So no bury in a landfill. No burning, because once you burn that resource, yeah, you might be able to create some fuel, you might be able to power a building or something one time, but then once you burn it, you don't have access to it. And then no toxic discharge. That's the third thing of zero waste. And that's that idea that if what you're doing, a byproduct of what you're doing is polluting the air, the water, the soil, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. We heard about it earlier, there are areas even here in Southern California where people are still suffering from lead batteries. There's people who are drinking dirty water. There's people who are living outside near these landfills that they're flaring off the natural gas or the methane gas because it's just seeping out, because as they mentioned earlier, when you throw compostable material into a landfill, it's going to break down in that landfill and create that methane gas. So I'm here today to tell you that the answer really is zero waste. It's to really reduce those things that you don't need. And I can tell you the benefit as an individual, I mean, just as me as a person, I don't spend very much money because I think long and hard before making purchases. So I'm much more conscious, I'm much more mindful, and yet I don't know if this is a cotton poly blend, which I wasn't thinking about when I bought it, but the point is, I'm gonna make sure I wear it out, I'm gonna use it up as long as possible. I just spent hours repairing a component of my cell phone because I refused to buy a brand new phone just because the plug doesn't work anymore. So I can tell you as an individual, I am living more consciously. I'm not caught up in that rat race of needing to consume more and more, and I'm saving a lot of money. And as a business owner, if you're here, by reducing waste in your business, whatever it is, you are going to save a lot of money because you're going to make less trash or recycling, which means you don't have to take it out all the time. You don't have to pay to have it collected. You're going to save money on operational costs, because if you can take anything that your business does that is disposable and replace it with a reusable item, you are absolutely going to save time on purchasing, on taking out the trash in so many ways. There's so many indirect benefits of going zero waste. And more importantly, as we heard today, there is an upswell of people who care about sustainable products. They care about single-use plastics, about getting rid of single-use plastics, getting rid of disposables. And if you are in the lead, you are on the forefront in whatever business that you do, you are going to get customers, because I tell you what, if your customer, that everyone who wants to drink out of that reusable cup, they're going to notice when they get that reusable mug at the coffee shop, and the people who don't really think about it are not going to notice. You're not going to hurt anything, but more and more people are getting turned off by disposability, by this feeling that the businesses that they're supporting, that they're working for, just don't care about the environment. They're only cared about profits. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that when you go zero waste, you save money. Thank you.
Let's get some questions going. Yes, let's start with you, Lee.
I have one main question. So it feels like the missing link is composting, but like, what are we doing? Not on the individual level, but like as a city level, like are we doing, because like we can have like the products that the restaurants are giving us, but then like it's compostable in a facility that's composting it, and then it's not going anywhere. But like, what are we doing like as a city or as a community?
What are we doing on the city level about composting, so food waste? Okay.
I'll actually take it on a statewide level. The first thing is, a lot of people don't realize that right now in California, when you put yard waste in your green bin, people have green bins, right? You put the yard waste in there. A lot of people don't realize that the overwhelming majority of that material is being mulched up and then used as landfill cover. So at the end of the day, they take all your yard waste and they cover the landfill with it. And the next day, they put trash on top of it. So the yard waste ends up going in the landfill. And on a legislative standpoint, that is being phased out. By the end of this year, you will not see that anymore, because the state has realized that we're trying to reduce methane gas coming out of landfills, and if you put all the yard waste in the landfill, you're actually adding to it. So I don't know where that is going to go currently.
Is there any ingredient in a landfill that can cut down on methane, that can just make it decompose in a healthy, wholesome way?
We can't, because landfills are like humongous trash bags. They don't breathe. I mean, over time, like trash bags.
They're suffocating.
Like yes, but just like trash bags, over time they break and they leach out. But that's a whole other story. But to answer your question, landfills have very little oxygen. I think about 5% oxygen. So when you put organic material in a landfill, it cannot breathe, so it breaks down anaerobically, which is what causes the methane to seep out. If you've ever been driving on 101 near Santa Barbara and you see the big flare on the side of the freeway, or you're at a landfill and you see they're burning or flaring off, that's where like methane is coming out of the ground. They're flaring it off, so that way they're burning it so it doesn't just go into the atmosphere.
So is that better to at least burn it?
Flaring is better than not flaring it, but it's better to keep it out of the landfill, so that way you can not worry about it. But the second part of the question was, there's a new law that's just gone into effect in California called Senate Bill 1383. It's the Short-Lived Climate Pollutants Act, and it's aiming to reduce organic waste to landfill by 50% by next year and 75% by 2025. And the way they're doing it is by requiring every jurisdiction in the state. So the city of Los Angeles is a jurisdiction, city of Santa Monica is a jurisdiction. Basically requiring the cities to get in line and make sure that every business has access to composting and actually does it. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I'm going to be working on it. But if you're in the city of LA and you're in a commercial account, which is multifamily with 5 or more units, or a business, every business in the city of LA has access to recycling and organics recycling now.
Let's just, one quick question. In all of your ways of approaching this, have you ever added human psychology? Because like today I went to do laundry. I live in an apartment building, 36 units, we have laundry down the hall, and I see a garbage can with somebody's Tide thing, and this is dense, heavy plastic. Somebody finished their last load of soap and just threw it out. And to me, in 2019, this is just like, you know, I saw this 60 Minutes piece about this Pacific island that was last used by soldiers in the World War II, and it's remote, and it's beautiful, and it's like, it's literally the furthest island from human habitation. And the birds, when they die prematurely and they do an autopsy, they're full of American plastic. These birds are like 3,000 miles from America, and they're that. So how do you get my asshole neighbor sir, to not take his heavy plastic thing and just go, like, what's the psychology?
It's a tough one. Honestly, I'm not a doom and gloom person, because I try to motivate and inspire people, and really the only way that I've found to motivate and inspire people to reduce waste, whether it's individually or on a business level, is to show them the money. Climate change is really hard because you said that's plastic on a remote island in the middle of the Indian Ocean or wherever it is. It's really hard for most people to see how they individually impact the air, the water, the soil. So showing people how they can just live more mindfully, they can slow things down and save money. Hopefully save money, that's the best way to reach people.
Okay, questions? Yes, Richard.
So I'm very confused. You said that, like, I have a blue bin, a black bin, and a green bin. And my garbage guy came and took the blue bin and put it in the trash, bin where the black trash is supposed to go. Because they used to, in the area that I live, they used to have...
What area do you live in?
I live in Beverly Hills,
So,
and they used to have a trash company, the garbage company that would specifically come for the blue. Then they would have another one that would specifically come for the black. And then all of a sudden, it just came to one trash company. And I noticed it, and I said, well, wait a minute, that's the recycling trash bin. Why are you putting it into the black? Are they not supposed to mix up? He's like, shh, don't tell anyone. So I actually got really aggravated, and I was going to call the city and ask them, I don't understand this. I'm a taxpayer and paying for this separate bin. Why isn't your company or your garbage people not doing what they're supposed to do? Now you're telling me that these blue bins are still separated, and whoever's working doesn't seem to... I got the impression that whoever's working at these companies and they're separating it, they're really not separating it. Everything's kind of put.
Let him get to the...
So what I want to ask you is, you as an environmentalist and someone who appraises these trash bin companies and stuff, you actually go to these facilities. You check to see if they're doing the right thing. You go to these garbage people. Are you seeing what they're doing in their jobs and go back to the city and report what's wrong?
I wish it was that straightforward. Every jurisdiction does it differently. So Beverly Hills and West Hollywood are two jurisdictions that are landlocked by the city of LA. They do it differently than LA. Santa Monica does it different than those areas as well. Everyone does it different. And the point I want to drill down, there are some instances, and I see this happen all the time, where people pay to have it collected separate and they collect it together for various reasons. But it still goes back to that idea that these recovery facilities, they can't rely on just bailing it up and shipping it over to China anymore. And the cleaner the material, the better, but also the less single-use disposable material that we generate, the better, because the overwhelming majority of it is not recyclable or doesn't get recycled.
Yeah. Do you remember that scene in Fight Club where they're on an airplane and he takes out like a toothbrush or something in single use? It's a whole thing about single use everything and how we live these pathetic lives where we think we're just getting taken care of because there's a whole monologue about it. I'll find the clip and send it to you. Question? Yes, over there.
You work with the city of Los Angeles with 311, because I think answering her question, Eric Garcetti, there was a huge thing in the LA Times where Eric Garcetti and the Department of Sanitation, they were contracting out with the apartment buildings and charging so much money to have the trash separated. And that was called Recycle Los Angeles.
Who is charging the money?
The contracting companies of the trash, the pickup facilities.
I see, charging LA money. So we're paying them to do it properly and collect it properly. Okay. Okay. Okay, so your question for him.
My question is, do you work with the city of Los Angeles? Do you work with LA Department of Sanitation and 311 to pick up all the bulky items and everything else from the street to kind of separate all that? Do you work with the
So there's a lot of chaos around this separation. Is it working? LA, Beverly Hills, Santa Monica.
So there's now 7 private waste haulers that service the city of Los Angeles, and the city services their own single-family homes. And up until 2 years ago, from the beginning of time until 2 years ago, waste in Los Angeles was like the wild, wild west. You could contract with pretty much any company, and as a result, there was trucks on the road all the time. We talked about air previously, a lot of diesel trucks. We didn't talk about equity, but there was no requirement for wages and whatnot. So from a business standpoint, prior to the City of LA's new program, trash was very cheap, but it was not equitable and it was not implemented with recycling and organics recycling in mind. I know in the last 2 years, since implementing that program, there used to be like 1,500 trash trucks or something on the road every day, and in the City of LA, now there's about 350. There used to be diesel trucks that were 40 years old, like those old school buses that had no emissions. Every truck in the City of LA, the sanitation is compressed natural gas. There is a prevailing wage requirement, and so there's equity in it, which means that the drivers who work very hard are getting fair wages. Even if they're non-union, they still have to get that fair wage with benefits. So yes, the price went up, but that is the cost of kind of getting in line with the state's requirements of reducing waste and increasing composting, because prior to that, there was very little recycling and very little composting happening in the city.
But they're doing behind the deal contracts, is what I read, is that they're bidding for the highest contractor with the city.
So there's money to be made in this. It's kind of like an episode of True Detective, California, the recycling and trash. Is there big money in this?
There's plenty to be made, but there's also an opportunity as a business owner to legitimately, or a resident of a multifamily, to reduce your trash costs because you're in control now. The more you recycle, the less you pay. The more you reduce, the less you pay. All these long-term contracts where people would like, well, I want to add recycling, they go, well, you're on a long-term contract, you're stuck with just trash. Right. Or you can't do this, you can't do that. All that stuff is gone. It is more expensive than it was 2 years ago, but it's considerably more equitable, and it's overall from an air quality, land use, it's better in way more ways than it is not.
Do you work with LA Department of Sanitation?
I work with a private hauler, one in the franchise, but we can talk about that more in detail offline.
Karen, yes, go ahead. Let's get a couple quick ones here so we can get a few more before we end. Karen.
So there's lots of certificates businesses can have that gives them entry into like bidding processes and like being a minority-owned business or a women-owned business. Are there any business certificates in the City of LA you know of for being like a green business that have specific rights with local government?
I don't know if there's specific rights, but the City of LA has Recicla stars, so they will recognize any business that's participating wholeheartedly in their program. The state has a green business program. Something I do through the Green Building Council, they have a zero waste certification, and I work with businesses on getting certified through that program, which is nationally recognized. Doesn't necessarily get you any direct perks, but it could potentially, attract more customers because they know that the business they're supporting is actually recycling and composting, because most people I know get really frustrated that they go, where's the recycle bin? Where's the compost? What's really happening?
Yeah, these certifications have to matter. We have to care when we have a contract. If you have a company and you're going to get a business to do something, whether it's provide you a service, what certifications do you have? Unless we ask them, right? They don't mean it B Corp or LEED or any of these certifications. They have to matter, right? I saw this video that you did online about this film shoot, and I can tell you also, I've been on film shoots where the waste is so immense, and then I've been on some good ones where they put your name on a cup, and that's it for the week. You get one cup, and it's wonderful, and you realize, oh my God, I would have had 3 in one day, and just the fact that I put my name on a piece of masking tape made me take care of this thing because there was the only one, So it's behavior modification and incentives for these ratings. Yes, question?
Our farm got an award like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago from the Department of Sanitation or something for our composting program. So we went to this, event that they had to give out these awards, and the award was a trophy that was a small plastic trash can.
Oh no!
And I think they had given out these like small...
Made in China with really toxic plastics.
They had just given out a lot of they gave us other single, not even use. There was no use. What am I going to do with a toy plastic trash can? And when I left, I was like, these guys just don't get it. I just have no faith in them to actually do what they need to do. And I'm just wondering, has that changed? Do you feel like we should have faith in them? Or because that's why do all this stuff on my own because I just don't trust anyone else to do it. You know?
Well, it's kind of the idea of trust but verify. You know, most of the people I work with have the best of intentions, but it doesn't always, there's oftentimes disconnects. So like we have a statewide ban on plastic straws at certain restaurants, but I still go to places and they give me the straw, which means that I, as the consumer, need to stand up and say, hey, we have a ban, I don't want that, plastic is bad. Because if I don't take action, if I don't stand up, then you're right, just whatever, as the wind blows is what ends up happening.
I had another moment I have to tell you about, one of these, like seeing the Tide plastic thing, which of course, being a guilty liberal, I picked up, went out to my recycling bin, threw it, took it out of the trash. I was in West Hollywood visiting a friend, and we were taking a walk, and we watched this woman pick up her dog's poop with a plastic bag as she was talking to a friend, walk, and in a blue recycling bin, not even looking, just put it in, thinking that she's being a good citizen, picking up the dog waste and putting it in a thing, and I'm like, somebody has carefully separated all their recycling, and you just put, is that ever an issue? Again, with the psychology though, too, the psychology piece of our behavior, but I don't know if that, again, with those blue bins and what ends up in them, what really happens to all that recycling?
Last thing I'll say is contamination is a huge issue. If you put a coffee cup that still has ice in it and some coffee residual and it gets out in the recycle bin and it soils everything, there's a good chance that when it gets to the recycle center, it's just going to go right on through to the residual, which is the landfill. So it's really hard because if people aren't going to care, if they're not going to be engaged, there's only so much we can do. But just the reality is we need to reduce the use of those items. Well, I mean, you can't reduce the dog poop, I guess.
Dogs are big in LA. This is an issue, right?
It's a huge issue.
What to do with all that, the plastic bags and the waste?
It's trash.
Okay, one more question. Anybody have one last one for Jonathan? Yes.
Now that we have the straw ban, if you go to Starbucks, they have the stoppers that they put in automatically, and it's automatic. Like you can't even require you to go no. I asked them, like, I don't want this. We threw it in the trash. And what was the point of that?
Another bit of waste from a big company like Starbucks.
The best thing if you're thinking about reducing waste, and this, the best thing you could do is bring your own water bottle with you places and bring your own coffee cup, because Starbucks will any coffee shop will take your coffee cup and put your beverage in it, and they will not put one of those little stir sticky doos in your cup.
I've asked for refills in a plastic cup, and they won't take your own cup. There's something about sanitation of taking your cup, and that's been an issue. I've tried that.
Yeah, we'll have to talk more about that later.
I read today about in United Arab Emirates, the biggest coffee company gives you 40% off for bringing your own mug. Like enough of a discount that everybody's doing it now. And they started by giving free coffee for a week. This major British coffee company, free coffee for a while and to shock people. And then after that, they reduced it to 40%, but they have a huge adoption now of everybody bringing that's kind of like money talk kind of thing. I forget the name of the coffee company, but I looked it up and it was based in the UK. So that kind of behavior will
Well, the cost of a coffee cup is more than the coffee, so the profits would be fantastic for us. Like people start bringing their cups.
That's kind of like what Ro was saying about the toothbrushes, that they're so cheap, the markup is so huge between the cost of the environment. Any final words, Jonathan?
I really appreciate all your attention so late into the program.
Yeah.
On a work night. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for Jonathan. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, I had some trivia questions. I don't want to keep, you've all been so good. I think I'll save them because we had 4 speakers tonight for the next Bina. Please make sure you get a bamboo toothbrush. And we have, if you want a pen that will turn into a beautiful tree, come and ask me for one. Shlomit has 7 or 8 of them, and we have a bunch of AQMD swag over there. And please download their app. And please come to our next event and tell the IEC you want to have more salons like this. Thank you very much.